Wichita East has quite the history on the hardwood.
Welcome to In the Zone. It is yours truly, Anthony Smith, on a Tuesday evening. Yes, I'm doing this on a Tuesday evening. Got a special guest coming up. Tip-off, since we're in basketball season still. Tournament time at that. Yes, that's right. And before I bring that guest on, I want to play a clip because this is going to lead into me bringing this guest on the show. He is the coach of one of the teams that's playing in the 6A state tournament at Koch Arena. So what I want to do is I want to play this clip, and then shortly after, we'll be getting him on the line.
Wichita East has quite the history on the hardwood. The program is credited with 9 state titles, 16 championship game appearances, 33 trips to the Final Four, numbers that few programs across Kansas can rival. Now, their path to this year's state tournament, a mix of unconventional and magical. The East High Blue Aces weren't expected to make it this far.
The season wasn't what we wanted it to be.
Just 5-15 in the regular season.
Don't worry about the past, because this is what really matters.
Tried to work on closing out games. We never lost hope.
And entering sub-state as the 15 seed.
In postseason play, records don't matter.
But they showed glimpses, wins against Carroll and campus, and kept hope.
We got the heart and mentality to win it all.
We all believed in each other, and that's all we needed for real.
In last week's sub-state, that belief showed. Beginning with an overtime win at 2-seed Junction City.
We felt like since we beat the number 2 seed, we can play with anybody.
When we play against the best, I think that brings the best out of them.
Then, at rival Wichita South, another overtime game and one possession to decide their season.
We knew exactly what play we wanted to go with.
My other teammate just said, give him the ball, he can do it. So they trust me, so I trust myself.
Manuel Martinez hitting a buzzer-beating 3 to keep the dream postseason run alive.
It felt good. It felt good.
Big-time player, big-time shot.
I had a lot of confidence in him that he would make a play, and he made the play.
And only affirmed their aspirations even more.
Tough situations don't last forever. Tough people do.
We ain't finished. That's just one accomplishment, but we want to win the big one.
We got the sub-state championship. Now it's time to get the 6A state championship.
Y'all counted this out all season. Keep counting this out. We like being underdogs. So.
Wichita East has.
And there you have the comments from some of the East High players and my guest that I will be getting on here shortly. I'm elated to have him on here. Some of you know who follow me know I have multiple podcast platforms, but I figured that this one will be the appropriate one because of the fact that it's in the zone. And I believe East High is in their zone. And you cannot sleep on them, none what. If you do, you might be making a big mistake. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get Coach Whitten on the phone here. And we're just going to have a good time and talk about his team, talk about him, and we're going to welcome him into the zone with outstretched arms and make him feel welcome here. So let's get him on the phone here.
Hello.
Yes, Coach Whitten.
How you doing?
Man, I am glad, blessed, honored, and privileged to have you on my podcast. And we're going with the one that I think is appropriate. We're going with In the Zone because I think it exemplifies your team, East High, being in the zone. Welcome in, Coach. Appreciate having you on here.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
And you know, it's been my thing. I've been watching a few high school games this year, and I have to say, it took a long time to get me back to a high school game. Not that I had anything against the high school game. It's just that it hadn't been really, something for me to do until I was first invited by a guy who has connections to East High back in the day. He coached under Ron Allen, then he coached that team. Now he's out of Mays, Joe Jackson. So I got reintroduced to the high school game made the journey down to Derby, got invited there, and I have to say I enjoy the high school atmosphere. I didn't know what I was missing until I went back, and now we get the East High Blue Aces. What I did was I laid in with that news clip talking about the tradition of East, which East High does have some tradition. I remember those teams they had back with the Narmore brothers, Don Thomas. I mean, they had some teams back then. I went to Northwest High School. So tell me a little bit about yourself. What got you into coaching? When did your journey start? Who are some people that influenced you in coaching?
Well, you mentioned one of them, and that being Ron Allen.
Yeah.
I'm actually an East graduate. I graduated in 2005, so I had the chance to play on two state championship teams coached by Coach Allen, one being in 2002 as a freshman and the other being my senior year in 2005. So I've been around basketball all my life. My sister, she went to East High, Latoya Jackson.
Latoya, I remember that name.
Now known as Latoya Randall. She just got inducted into the Hall of Fame at East High. So I always been around basketball, just watching her play. She's been a huge influence on me playing basketball and coaching now. So when I got asked, my first high school job was with Coach Hour at Wichita Heights. So I was actually there for 7 years. And when he initially asked me if I wanted to coach, I didn't know if it was something that I wanted to do. And he was just like, you'll be good at it. You know, you was a great basketball player. Just give it a try. You know, I was real hesitant for one. You know, I'm a Blue Ace, and, you know, we don't – Heights is a big rival of ours.
Right.
So I was real hesitant. But I gave it a shot, and I just fell in love with it. Being a player and a competitor, you know, when you don't have that, when you can't compete anymore as a player, it just, you know, it's not the same. But when I found out coaching, it was just like playing, you know, that competitive nature, going to practice every day, trying to get the best out of players and, you know, just working with kids, being a positive role model in them. And through my experience in high school and the success that I had and the mentors that I had along the way, Coach Allen, you know, Steve Gray, our assistant coach, Amos Alford that's not with us no more, those people, you know, that played a part in shaping me as a basketball player, along as a man. I just wanted to give back to the younger kids and, you know, give them somebody they can look up to and, you know, coach them to experience some of those things that I experienced playing basketball, because those are life lessons that you never forget, those lessons that prepare you for life and prepare you to be a man, a father, a husband, you know, a great employee at a job. So I just wanted to give back and through coaching in those ways.
Absolutely. And the key thing when we look at this season, you know, you said things didn't go as y'all expected. And the first thing when someone looks at a record, say, end of the season, 5-15, you're going into sub-state, it's easy for someone to overlook. And I don't know if that's what Junction City did. But I want to talk about Manuel Martinez. Went off for 44 points. What is the feeling as a coach that you have when you see a performance like that?
I've seen a lot of good players, like from when I was growing up as a kid. You know, I remember watching Coleon Young.
Yeah.
I remember watching the dominant South High team, Manny Dyes, Darren Williams.
Yeah.
You know, and then you go back to South in the 90s. I remember Javen Tyndall, the Southeast players, Tony Brown, all those studs.
Right.
And then I got to coach against like a Jackie Johnson, Jarek Harden in Southeast, guys that can really, really fill it up. And to see him go out and get a 44-point game, I looked up, honestly, I said, man, this kid got 30 and we still in third quarter.
Right.
And I looked at my managers and I said, he's going to get 40. And then he hit the 40. He hit 40. I said, man, he got 40. And then he goes back to the free throw. I was like, he got a 42 piece. I was like, this is crazy. So for him to come out in a do-or-die game, nobody's picking us to win. Junction City had an incredible season.
Yeah.
And I told my guys, this is a team that been bounced from Wichita teams for the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
When I was at Heights, we won state in 2002. We beat them in the sub-state championship game.
Mm-hmm.
And then Heights beat them the following year in the first round of state. So with a season like that, they beat Blue Valley Northwest, one of the best teams.
Yeah.
They won their league. So they had huge aspirations of being a state championship team. And for us to go in there and win in overtime, and Manuel Martinez that had a dominant performance, is something that I'll never forget.
Right.
As a coach. And I don't know if he can, if anybody that I coach will ever be able to top that type of performance.
Right. And then y'all turn around, because let me get this right. I want to make sure I get this right. Y'all had to actually go to Junction City, right? Is that correct?
We had to drive up to Junction City.
Uh-huh.
And
then turn back around.
And
go to South.
You credit to the kids, man. You go up to Junction City Wednesday. You win, and the day wasn't. I'm very, very organized.
Right.
I like routine.
You got a routine, right?
I don't like to break routine. So as we get matched up with Junction City, that Saturday, you get matched up with them, and you start getting the logistics ready, and you realize, man, we got ACT testing that day.
Right.
So I got 2 juniors on my team, so I only got 2 juniors that's going to be in school that day.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, man, this is not a good setup. So the first thing I tell my guys is that you guys got to be men. You got to get up in the morning at 8, eat your breakfast, stretch out, get a nap in, and then we got to hit the road. We got to be at the gym at 12, and we got to hit the road. And I'm trusting you to not stay up all night, be tired.
Mm-hmm.
And to their credit, they came out just fresh, a lot of energy. They played a great first half, and they had enough in the tank to finish it off in overtime, which we had lost the following week to Southeast
mm-hmm.
in an overtime game, which we was just drained. We ran out of bodies. We was missing a kid that had the flu. So to their credit, they went out and hopped in the vans, took a 2-hour drive up to Junction City.
Yep.
And shocked the state.
Right, pretty much. Yeah. And then the turnaround, because y'all had to play South High, and that was 48 hours later, right?
We played South on a Saturday. So,
on Saturday. So you had
you got to come back. Thursday. We're not gonna be physical, have any type of physical contact, because we're still tired. The kids, we got home at about 10:30, so I'm sure the kids spent about an hour on the phone, texting and looking at social media, and the buzz was in the air. So it was a long day
Right.
for them the next day, and we got the practice on Friday and lock in on South, and it was a quick turnaround. We played at 5 o'clock that evening against South. So it helped to our advantage that it was a Wichita team because we had played them before. We played them like a week prior to last Saturday, and they beat us by 20, which was a game that we didn't play good at all. But we had beat them early on in the year, and our kids was confident that they can go out there and get a dub. And we played really good for 3 quarters. But I knew South would make a run. Credit to Coach Chuck Gunner. Those kids don't have any quit in them. So I knew they would make a run at us, but we made the last play at the game that counted the most. So here we are.
And that's the part I'm getting at right there. That last play, that last second shot, and he said during the celebration, he said he blacked out. He said he didn't know what happened. He said it felt like an outer body experience, to experience that moment, that last second shot against South. So tell me all the emotions. Let's get back to the team here because it seems like everybody is locked in. One of the things that stands out to me is some of the underclass players, they told Martinez, they said, look, you're a senior and you can't go out like this. So let's play. So it's like everybody is rallying around Martinez. And then for him to have that performance against Junction City, then come back and hit the game-winning shot. And even the players, as it was said, I was reading an article, and the players even told you, get the ball to him. Get him the ball. Wherever he goes, wherever he takes us, we're going to follow. So is that the mentality of this team that they're hanging their hat on Manuel Martinez?
Yeah, man, he's our leader. He's a quiet leader. In these days and age, it's kids. You're not going to, we sit back and watch The Last Dance, and we see Michael Jordan, how he is in practice. He's pushing people, he's calling them out. We don't really see that much with kids these days, and the whole season I've been, telling him, these guys are going to follow you because they see you come here every day. You put the work in every day. You might have a bad practice for a 10-minute segment. All it takes for me to get on you and you respond. You don't ever make excuses for anything. You just respond.
Mm-hmm.
And you practice hard, and then it relates to the game. And these kids have seen him perform at a high level all year. I'm thinking of a game where we played Bishop Carroll, and we're down by 13 in the third quarter.
Yeah.
And he ends up with 35.
It's amazing.
But going into the third quarter, he only had 13.
Wow.
So you talk about 23 points, 20-something points in a 12-minute span, a fourth quarter and overtime. So we know what he's capable of doing. And the other seniors and the younger guys was like, Turtle, this is your team. We know you're not going to be alpha, boisterous about it, but this is your team, and we only going to go as far as you go.
Mm-hmm.
And he felt that, and he put it upon himself to carry us on his back. So we get to the huddle. Well, fortunate enough, we got fouled. We got fouled with 1.4 seconds left, and I'm out of timeouts. South calls a timeout, which gave us time to draw up a play.
Mm-hmm.
This is a play that we just, we had a walkthrough at 11 o'clock that morning. It was the last play we ran before we left to go eat. And my assistant coach, I have two of the best assistant coaches in the league, Marcus McCray and Melvin Randall.
Mm-hmm.
I trust those guys. And coach said, draw up the play, coach. And I said, this is your play, coach. Draw it up. So as he's drawing up the play is normally ran for our point guard, Ishmael Berry, which is a really good guard.
Right.
And he's having a good game. But my heart told me, if we're gonna lose, I want Turtle to take the last second shot.
Mm-hmm.
I trust him, to take that shot. Not taking anything away from Ishmael. I trust Ishmael, but Turtle had worked his butt off all year for me. Summer workouts, conditioning, the season, sticking with me, believing in me and trusting in me. I wanted to put him in the spot, to make a play to get us to state.
Right.
And my other seniors, they was right there with me. They was like, Coach, this is Turtle team, give him the ball. And, he didn't waver. He didn't say, nah, Coach, run it like we've been running it. He got the shot and he made it happen.
That's amazing. I mean, I've seen that replay over and over and over. I mean, from the shot to the falling off balance to the celebration. I mean, that's why they call this March Madness. So now we move forward. First round game in the state tournament. I wish I had that grab. I wish I had that bracket up before me. The team y'all playing slips my mind now, but
we got Shawnee Mission Northwest.
Shawnee Mission Northwest. Okay. Everybody knows about that program. They're always a force to be reckoned with. What type of game plan do you see them coming at, to try to slow you guys down? I mean, what are some of their strengths and what are some of their weaknesses, and what are some of the weaknesses you think you guys can exploit?
Well, they're really talented team, and they're coached by a really good guy, a really good coach by the name of David Birch.
Mm-hmm.
He's a longtime assistant of Ed Fritz from Blue Valley Northwest.
Ed Fritz, right.
He won a couple state championships as an assistant. He went and coached at Piper High School, and they made it to the Elite Eight, made it to the Final Four before COVID canceled that tournament.
Right. Yeah.
So he has taken Shawnee Mission Northwest to 3. This is a third state appearance, and they're hungry for a championship, as they should be. They had a perfect season. As I'm looking at their schedule, you're not gonna find too many games where they didn't win by double digits.
Mm-hmm.
So, as a coach, you're like, dang, they were really good.
Right.
Because out east they have some really good teams.
Right.
But being in a top system at a top program like I was at Heights, I studied a lot as an assistant. We're getting scouting reports ready, finding tendencies and weaknesses. One thing that I see in this team, they're very long.
Mm-hmm.
The point guard is 6'5", and then the center 7 foot.
Oh wow, that's the college lineup right there.
They definitely have a size advantage. But one thing I feel like we can do, we can really get up underneath their guards and play them, keep them in front, and make them shoot jump shots. And we just have to limit them to one shot on the offensive end and limit them to one shot on the defensive end. Be patient offensively. This is a game that we don't want it to get in the 60s and 70s. We want to keep around the 40 and 50 and then see what happens. We're gonna be extra physical with them. One thing about the City League prepares you for games like this.
Right.
I believe we got one of the best leagues in the state. And our guys played against the T.J. Williams, the Chase Robinson, the Malachi, the Heights, and we ain't backing down from nobody.
Right, right.
We not backing down from nobody. We played campus and Dodge City, and the kids, they couldn't, you got a kid like Andrell Burton, was probably one of the best kids in the state.
Right.
They couldn't wait. They couldn't wait to match up with him. My kids is, Coach, what's the matchups for the game? What's the matchup for the game? All day in practice, and I'm like, we'll let you know. So they, they're hungry, and the beauty about March Madness is that
Anybody can be beat.
Anybody can be beat.
Right. And I've said this on my other podcast. I said, don't overlook East High. I said, they may have a losing record, but they don't have a losing mentality. And that makes a big difference. So,
you're right. And sometimes they say a team is gonna take the mentality as their head coach.
Uh-huh.
And God bless rest his soul, Coach Allen.
Yes.
The team that I was on my senior year in 2005, he called us the mystery team. And you talking about a guy, he done coach Tolion Young, future NBA player at high school. Taj Gray.
Yeah.
Big 12 newcomer of the year. I coached a lot of guys.
Mm-hmm.
But on my team, there wasn't any Division I players. But there was a lot of toughness and there was a lot of grit. And we went up to Emporia and we won it, And my team, we have viewed this season as a journey that's preparing us for this postseason. If you look at our schedule, you'll see a lot of overtime losses by one or two.
Mm-hmm.
And we're about 7. We felt like we left about 6 or 7 wins on the table.
Right.
So credit to the kids for believing in each other, believing in the coaches and sticking together. A lot of teams where we was at in the season, a lot of teams would have packed it in, but they kept believing, and here we are, playing at Coke Arena, about 3 miles away from the school, and we're just so excited, man.
Yeah,
I'm so blessed to be the coach of this team.
And with that, I want to say I wish you guys all the best of luck. I believe
Thank you.
I believe that you guys have a culture there that's been set, and I want to say it like this: it's a culture that's set on the boys' side as well as the girls' side. I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna let you out of here. When I went to see the Derby girls game last week, and they was playing against East, if you had turned off the scoreboard, you would have thought it was a close game because that girls team that y'all have there, they're going to fight, scratch, claw until the clock reads all zeros. I
was at that game, and one thing about, and I give my colleague Ryan Chandler a lot of credit. He started the season out with 10 girls,
mm-hmm.
and he ended the season with 10 girls.
Mm-hmm.
And for him to get a home game, he got a first-round home game.
Mm-hmm.
And then for him to go to Derby and compete against one of the best girls programs in the state, says a lot about him, those kids, and those coaching staff. And the future is bright for both programs at East High.
Yeah. There's a young lady on the East High team. I can't think of her. Oh my God! I know she wears number 22. She caught my attention.
Yeah,
she's a sophomore, and I'm gonna link her name with the sophomore for Derby, Michaela Askew.
Really good. She's really good.
I could see those two girls, those two young ladies, making a name for themselves, not just in this area right here, but also throughout the state. Those are two names that everybody's going to know. So, but yeah, that East Tide Girls program, I was very impressed. Even though the score was one-sided in favor of Derby, I was impressed with how they fought to the bitter end, because even Coach Allen, one of the coaches on the Derby staff, I made that point to him. He said, you know what? He said, they're a very good team, and they got some young players, and they'll be a strong team to reckon with in the future. So y'all definitely got Derby's attention as well, too. So, but with that being said, once again, I want to say I wish you guys the best of luck. We will do
Thank
this.
you.
We'll do this again, because, hey, ever since I then got back in touch with the high school game, that's what my podcast lately have been just centered around. And since it's tournament time, it's going to be full throttle supporting these high schools. And I want to say to anybody that's listening to this podcast, get out and support these young people. They need your support. Think about what just happened the other week in Kansas City with the shoot. That's what we don't need. These kids need the support of family and the community. So get out, support these young people, and show them and give them your best support. And Coach, once again, good luck, and we'll do this again. All right.
Thank you. We'll see you soon.
All right. Once again, in the zone with Anthony, our special guest, Coach Whitten, coach of the East Tide Blue Aces, who will be playing in the 6A Boys State Tournament at Coke Arena. Tell you what I'm going to do right here. And yes, I know that was a lengthy first segment. That happens. I don't have, as they say in radio terms, a hard break, so I can go as long as I want, go as short as I want. And that was all well worth it. I'm interested to see what that East High team is going to do. They could end up shocking the state. You never know. And even with what he said, Shawnee Mission had, with a 6'5" point guard, and they got a 7-footer out there. There's another old saying that goes like this: the bigger they are, the harder they fall. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and take this break. And when I come back, I'm going to shift around to some news on the national level. So stay locked in the zone with yours truly, Anthony Smith. Be right back.
Back to In the Zone with yours truly, Anthony Smith, on the Tuesday evening. And I want to say I appreciate my first guest for being on In the Zone. Coach Whitten over at East High School has his team in the state finals. That's right. You look at their record and you're like, what? But hey, I said this once and I said this again. You can overlook them if you want to based on their record. But I can almost guarantee you overlook them, that'll be a big mistake. They call it March Madness for a reason. However, though, there are some stories that really captivate us that's bigger than sports itself. And I must say that when I looked at this story was published on March the 1st. And let's just say it's one that will actually tug at the heart. Seriously, it will tug at the heart. And what makes it even, I don't know if you want to call it personal, is the fact that I've been around this community. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about Derby. And one person in particular, you probably caught this on local TV station news, KSN, Channel 12. Well, now you're going to hear about it on my podcast. And why am I taking the time to share this story? Well, I've been to some Derby basketball games. And let me just say it like this. The people of Derby are magnificent. Warm-hearted, loving people. But this story here, when I say some things are bigger than the game itself. At the time this article was printed, Derby was one win away from earning back-to-back appearances in the Kansas Class 6A state tournament. But there was a time not too long ago when one of the Panthers' starting guards was told he'd never play basketball again. Jack Ulwelling is Derby's starting shooting guard. He can also run the point. He's the perfect team guy. Ulwelling can shoot it, drive it, dish it, and he's a clutch player. All of the above is true. The fact that he's playing at all defies what a doctor told him 3 years ago after he suffered an injury in middle school. He says, yes, I had a very slim chance of me ever being able to play contact sports again, said the junior guard. That's what the doctor told Ulwelling after his accident during 8th grade physical education class at Derby North Middle School. Something happened, and I found out a femoral thing in my hip had been broken and that I needed surgery on it. I had to deal with it all summer, being out for 3 to 4 months. And it was a tough time for me, said Ulwelling after a recent practice. Derby varsity basketball head coach Brett Flory visited the 8th grader not too long after he had the hip surgery. And when things were looking pretty bleak, I just tried to kind of help his spirits a little bit. I never really, we'd have camps and stuff like that, but I'd never really been one-on-one with him like that before, said Flory. And right as soon as I walked in, it was pretty obvious his mind was on, I'm going to get through this, and I'm going to play for you in high school. So I knew we had a special kid on our hands right there. Ulwelling says his family encouraged him not to give up on his dreams of playing again. At first, I looked at it as him telling me the truth. And as a doctor, that's what I want to hear. I don't want him to tell me something that's not real, he said. So I obviously had to take it as a hit. And then from there on, I did everything that the doctors told me to do and helped me get back and just staying and having a positive mindset about it. I always knew I was going to play again. We all remember being in 8th grade and imagine being told that when sports has been your life and you've been raised in a sports family the way he had, to be obviously devastating. And that could send a lot of kids probably into a spiral. But Jack's response is pretty typical. Jack, no, you're not going to beat me, said Flory. And I'm going to make this happen, and he was. We'll never know how much it has or hasn't hampered his high school performance. But all I know is that he's been one of the most fun players to coach I've ever had. Ulwelling made the freshman team as a freshman and also played on the junior varsity. He stepped up to the varsity level as a sophomore. He played a lot last year coming off the bench. His most heroic moment came in last year's sub-state final at Washburn Rural in the final seconds of the fourth overtime. The Junior Blues led the visiting Panthers 72-71 with 15 seconds left in the fourth OT, and Derby had the ball. We set up a kid out of a double stagger screen for Kaysen Fisher-Brown. He comes off those. They jumped Kaysen, leave Jack, and Kaysen trusted him to throw a sophomore the ball with his entire career on the line. And not surprising to many, Jack came through. The minute it left Jack's hand, I just started walking to half court to shake hands with the other coach because I saw it come off and I knew that thing was going in. Derby won in thrilling fashion, 74-72, and advanced to the state tournament. The Panthers can return to state if they can beat crosstown rival campus on Saturday, which would have been last Saturday at Derby High. Ulwelling said the Panthers have more work to do. Not yet. The job's not finished. As a team, we battled through some stuff. We really came together as a family, started playing very well these past few games, and we still got to finish the job. Derby 14-7 has won 9 of its last 10 games, including a 54-37 victory over Dodge City in the first round of Sub-State. The Panthers split a pair of games with campus during the regular season. In Derby's home court win over campus on February 13, Ulwelling led the Panthers with 21 points. And I just want to share that story because you take a story like that, and then you combine it along with the interview that I had with the East High coach and the fact that that team goes into Sub-State with the losing record and what they overcame. It's all about overcoming setbacks. Unfortunately, Derby didn't get back to state this year. But the future for Derby basketball is as bright as the Kansas sun shining on a warm spring day. It is stories like this. Like I said, it's bigger than the game. You can never determine or estimate what's in a person's heart. I'll say to Jack, keep fighting. Your future is bright. I hate the fact that they're not, and I can say that. I hate the fact that they're not playing in the state tournament. And the reason I say that is plain and simple. I got reintroduced to the high school basketball game by invitations to come check out games. Not going to either game to be a fan, but to, take up the invitation, in a way, show support for the person that invited me to the game, get to meet people, do what I do, set up podcast interviews, maintain some friendships. But as I kept following this Derby team, because my next game was the Derby Panthers women's basketball game, and I stayed for the guys, I was entertained on both levels. As I was leaving the game, the first person that I actually met, and this was the game against Newton, as I was walking out the gymnasium, I ran into the sophomore sensation for the Lady Panthers, Michaela Askew. Shook her hand, told her she played a great game. Fast forward, I decided to go to another game. I followed Derby to Mays High School. Got to meet Coach Brett Flory in person, shook his hand, thanked him for being on my podcast. And the first thing he said was, it's going to be tough. Plus it's their homecoming or senior night, whatnot. He says it's going to be tough. And it was an emotionally charged game, that game. As a matter of fact, Mays jumped out to the 11-0 start. Derby stopped the bleeding for a little bit with a 3-point shot, but that didn't faze Mays. They extended the lead. But just like the spirit of Jack Ulwelling, who wasn't going to let an injury stop him from pursuing his dream, Derby fought in that game and overcame, I believe, a 21-point deficit to win that game. But in saying that, though, I ran across the same basketball player from the Lady Panthers that I ran into the first time, who was very appreciative that I came out to support them. And of course, I met some more players along with some parents. And that's how I ended up being hooked on Derby. Fast forward, I see Derby play for a third time, the Lady Panthers, and it's their sub-state final against, I would say, a very valiant game, East High Lady Blue Aces. Now, why would I say it like that when the score was one-sided? Well, the Lady Panthers played a one-sided game against Mays. And let's just say my observation is Mays looked like they were playing defeated. Same could be said when they played against Newton. When they jumped out on them, it's as if Newton threw in the red flag. The 69, I believe it was 69-38 score that Derby put on East. However, with East High, if you turned the scoreboard off, you would have thought it was a closely contested game because they fought, clawed, scratched, did everything as if it was a close game that they were trying to win. And that's the beauty of high school sports. Sometimes it's not about the X's and O's, but it's about how you play the game. Win, lose, or draw, you play until the buzzer sounds and the clock strikes 0. And for that, I'm hooked on the high school experience. I want to say to all of these participants that are participating in the Class 6A state finals, 4A finals, 5A, 3A, 2A, 1A, I wish you all the best of luck. Do I have a rooting interest? Chances are, as much as you hear me talk about them, you would probably say yes. But I am going to table that. I will say this, though. I believe it's going to be some good competitive games. And with every team's victory, it's going to be a hard-fought victory. Nothing is going to be handed to them. But whoever comes out on top, know this for sure. You've earned it. Celebrate it. Cherish it. But don't rest on it. Come back and do it again the following year. With that being said, wish you all the best of luck in your endeavors in the state basketball tournament this year. It is March Madness on the high school level. Unfortunately, I can't make the games tomorrow. Well, I could probably make some during the first couple of sessions. But after that, I know I have to go to work. But I want to say to those who are listening to this podcast, get out and support these young people. They need your support. I remember I had an interview with Coach Chadwick, the Derby women's basketball coach. And he said it like this. Don't call it boys basketball. Don't call it girls basketball. Call it basketball. We as a fan, we tend to separate. And in separating, you often hear the comments, well, there's a difference between the girls and the guys. The guys play above the rim, the girls play below the rim. But can I tell you something? Just because the guys play above the rim and the girls play below the rim does not mean that the girls don't play with passion. If you don't believe me, go check out a game. You'll be impressed. And just like me, you'll be saying, this is what I've been missing. And I'm glad I'm back. I will personally say this. I thank the people of Derby for accepting me. The coach, the coaching staff, the players. I almost feel like I'm part of the Derby community. When in essence, all I am is a guy talking on a podcast, creating relationships and making new friends along this journey. Tell you what I'm going to do. I am going to take a break right here. And when I come back, I am going to switch around, look at probably either some college or some NBA news right here on In the Zone. So don't you go nowhere. I'll be right back. You're in the zone with Anthony. Welcome back to In the Zone with yours truly, Anthony Smith. Told you I was going to look at some college news, and this here has to be a first in college sports. And you know, we live in a time and era where there's two things that are shaping the outlook on college sports, to where some will say it has lost its amateurism. That still remains to be seen. But this would have to be unexpected, because this story, you would expect it to come from one of the power conferences. But Dartmouth men's basketball team votes to unionize, a first in college sports. Dartmouth University's men's basketball team voted to unionize on Tuesday, bringing them one step closer to becoming the first collegiate labor union. The whole team participated in a 13-2 vote in favor of joining the Service Employees International Union, which is SEIU Local 560. The school will have until March 12 to file an objection to the union election with the National Labor Relations Board, or the NLRB. After objections are filed, there will be 10 days for both parties to file a request for an appeal to the decision. The school has already put out a statement emphasizing the athletes are not employees, so it doesn't believe this union is appropriate. For decades, Dartmouth has been proud to build productive relationships with the 5 unions that are currently part of our campus community. We always negotiate in good faith and have deep respect for our 1,500 union colleagues, including the members of SEIU Local 560, the school said in its statement. In this isolated circumstance, however, the students on the men's basketball team are not in any way employed by Dartmouth. For Ivy League students who are varsity athletes, academics are of primary importance, and athletic pursuit is part of the educational experience. Classifying these students as employees simply because they play basketball is as unprecedented as it is inaccurate. We, therefore, do not believe unionization is appropriate, it added. If the school rejects the union, it could be a years-long court process before a final decision is made. But this is step one, part of the greater changes. And I just lost my feed right there. Hopefully I can pull that back up. There we go. Bear with me. My feed just went blank, and now I'm trying to pull it back up because this is a very interesting story of interest. So just bear with me here as we attempt to pull this back up. And there we go, right there. And here it is right here. It says, in this isolated circumstance, however, the students on the men's basketball team are not in any way employed by Dartmouth. For Ivy League students who are varsity athletes, academics are of primary importance, and the athletic pursuit is part of the educational experience. We get to that part right there. If the school rejects a union, it could be a year-long court process before a final decision is made. But this step is one part of the greater change that have come to college athletics in recent years. Dozens of states have either put laws in place or are considering ones that allow players to benefit from their name, image, and likeness, NIL. Congress has had numerous hearings regarding how NIL would work and how to protect players as more seek to benefit financially from their efforts as student athletes. The Hill has reached out to SEIU and the men's basketball team for comments. So Dartmouth is the school that is looking like will be leading the charge toward becoming a union, even though the school said they are not employed, and they said this is highly inaccurate and inappropriate. But if Dartmouth is doing this, how much more longer do you think it would be before you start seeing the Dukes, your North Carolinas, your Alabamas, your Clemson, your Georgia, your LSUs? How much longer do you think it'll be before we start seeing them doing the same thing, if it's not already in progress, quiet as it's kept? This is the landscape that we live in, which is called college football, to which some argue college football, college basketball, your biggest money makers on campuses, especially in those power conferences, you say they are no longer amateurs. I say they are amateurs, but they're also entrepreneurs because they're finding a way to cash in now on their name, image, and likeness. But your feedback is more than welcome. I'd like to know, what do you think on this situation and the fact that it's Dartmouth that's actually leading the charge, especially coming from an Ivy League school, from a conference of Ivy League schools. So it's amazing. That right there is amazing. That, like I said, when I seen that, it caught me off guard, because when you think Dartmouth, you think Harvard, you think Yale, you think all those Ivy League schools, and the fact that it wasn't like an Alabama or somebody that came out with this, that's what makes it even more amazing. Which leads me to think that it's a matter of time before these other big time schools are going to be doing the same thing. These players are going to come together and they're going to say, we are a union, or let's make a union. And if you've been keeping up with what's going on with the NCAA and these judges ruling not in their favor, is there going to be an NCAA to govern these power conferences? Or do they simply break away and say, we're not part of the NCAA, we will govern our own self? I, like a whole lot of other people, could very well see that taking place. At best, the NCAA will only have power over your lower division schools. And I think that's where we are eventually going to end up getting to. There is so much more I want to look at, but time will not allow for me to do that. But I will be back in the zone sooner rather than later. But until that next time, take care of yourself and each other. I will be back again. But in the meantime, stay locked in the zone. Once again, special shout out to Coach Whitten, East High School. Appreciate you, young man. Wish y'all the best of luck. Wish all the participants the best of luck. Until the next time, take care of yourself. Be blessed. Be a blessing. I'm out.